I am I'm setting up here. You know I don't really live stream. But I'm setting up. You know I'm also bad about trying to get read comments while we go and do this. I'm actually going to film in portrait mode too because it's easier for me. But the reason I'm here is because I'm at the Los Gatos Police Department. I've been demanding access to public records, and I just lost the paper. And the town attorney has threatened me, told me that I am not going to be able to get records. I have been emailing, I've been copying the First Amendment Coalition, the San Jose Mercury, and every other local reporting base, because this is the town that hired Officer Johnathon Silva, and they hired him in 2018 after he beat somebody in the San Jose State Library, and the San Jose State Police cleared him of wrongdoing. But when SB 1421 passed, the body cams from that incident that Internal Affairs had cleared him on outraged the public. And by then he was working for the Los Gatos police. And he had also had a second incident of excessive force that the Los Gatos police tried to cover up. But when SB 1421 came out, they weren't able to do that. So the police department has tried to give me records to deny my access to records for the last year. The town attorney has threatened me and told me that they wouldn't be giving me the access. So here we go. I've worn a mask. I've done everything that I'm supposed to do to get access to these records. And now we're going to go in and get them. Okay, here we go. So the doors are locked. I anticipated this. And there is no call, so we're going to go here. I'm going to try to read your comments as I go. I always appreciate you guys coming on board. Because I have been threatened by the town attorney and several police officers with the Los Gatos Police Department, I brought a camera guy. There he is. You can see him. And I'm streaming live because... Yes, hi, this is Susan Bassey, and pursuant to Government Code 6253A, I would like to access and inspect the public records that the department has.
Okay, our business's office is actually closed. They reopen Monday at 9 a.m. if you'd like to return.
What time are the office hours open on Monday?
Monday through Thursday, it's 9 a.m. to 1 p.m.
And Fridays, what are your office hours?
Friday, the office hour right now is closed to the public due to COVID.
Okay, so how is the department accommodating issues related to access to public records based on the...
That's being done Monday through Thursday.
Okay, so those are now your normal business hours. So
temporarily, yes, due to COVID.
Okay, and what about the town records where other records are kept?
That I would have no idea.
Okay, we'll go check. Thank you, I appreciate it. I'll see you next week. So on this records law, you are only allowed to access the records during business hours. And they told me they weren't going to give me access to the records. Then they gave me this lawsuit that has been filed in federal court against the town. And the lawsuit is very revealing because the local news reported that Officer Silva had resigned when in fact we know that Officer Silva now, according to this lawsuit, was fired. So there was misinformation from the local news, from the town. We're going to find out the source of that information. We're going to demand access to the public records. This town, which is a very wealthy town, hired a police officer with a known history of excessive force. He had been cleared by Internal Affairs, and they thought the video from that was going to stay secreted. And instead, we ended up getting the records. So now the town's building is also closed, it looks like. This is for building inspection records. Lawsuit records would probably be here as well, and everything else. So we're going to keep doing this. We're going to keep pressing. This is where the town chamber councils for public meetings are. They have been closed during COVID, and we're finding that a lot of local government agencies are using COVID as an excuse to secret their information. So I want to go over this federal lawsuit against police officer Silva, because police officer Silva is now claiming that he is a victim of retaliation because there was public outrage over his termination. And during that time, they were concealing a second excessive force case. So we're going to try and go back. I'll come back next week when their regular business hours are open, and we are going to keep going to get these records and look for the gaps in what they're telling the public, the lawsuits that this is costing taxpayers from a gypsy cop. And just so you guys all know, a gypsy cop is somebody who runs into trouble in one department and they then get hired by another one. So the town of Los Gatos literally hired a cop that they knew had beat a mentally ill man in the library of the San Jose State Library. He beat him. He got cleared by internal affairs. There was never a criminal prosecution. And then the town of Los Gatos decided it was a good idea to hire him. And when they did, he beat somebody else. He did it again. So we're going to start looking at what the cost of gypsy cops are to a community, whether it's federal lawsuits, whether it's claims of civil rights violations. And we know from the Derek Chauvin case that Derek Chauvin cost the city $27 million. So there's a lot of money in Los Gatos. The taxpayers pay for public safety. There have been complaints that the police have not been responding fairly. And so we are going to start looking at how wealthy communities handle gypsy cops versus poorer communities that do not have the money for law enforcement departments like this one. So if you'll recall, this is the department that retaliated against me when I filmed them arresting a man who somebody from Apple had complained was bothering them. So this is a department that has a lot of money, a lot of time, and yet the residents are complaining they're not fighting real crime. They're giving a free pass to white-collar crime and corruption, and they're protecting bad cops, and they're also hiring bad cops. So I just want to show you, to give you a perspective of the town of Los Gatos. It's not very big. It's got about 30,000 residents. It's got some of the best schools in the state. The residents here expect the police to work for them. There are a lot of Karens and snowflakes in this community, and they're able to keep this under wraps. So we're going to talk about it, and we're not going to let them keep this silent anymore. So I hope you guys can hear me. I'm going to go back where I can see your comments a little bit more. You guys know I'm really bad about being able to read them as they go, but I'm going to try to do that. So I'm trying to explain what a cop is and how much it costs the city. So before, these internal affair investigations were held within the department. They were confidential. They were considered personnel matters. And now we know that they are keeping them secret. And as the videos come out, because of the laws about transparency, we're seeing what police officers actually have been doing and what they've been cleared of as well. So I know you guys are hanging with me, and I appreciate it. I did spend the week telling them that I was going to come. I was threatened by their attorneys. The police have not wanted to give me their records. They've told me that they've produced the records, and they did not produce the records. So when you're asking for access to inspect records, you don't identify what records you want. You can ask for blank forms. You can ask for body cams that have been made public. You can make access requests for anything you want to see. And from there, you can request other records. But a gypsy cop is a cop who gets into trouble, and then instead of getting fired, they go to work for another department. And in the case of Officer Silva, he engaged in one excessive force case, and then Los Gatos police, with all their money and funding, hired him, and he did it again. So we're going to look and see if there is a related federal case, and we're going to start to quantify the cost of a gypsy cop. And that means the training costs, what they're doing to retrain when there has been an excessive force case, what lawsuits are connected to that Gypsy cop. And in this case, we don't just have the cost for the first case at San Jose State University where there was a federal case. We also have the issue of a second potential case in 2019 when Officer Silva did it in the town of Los Gatos. And now taxpayers are going to pay for a second lawsuit to defend the fact that Officer Silva is talking about he was retaliated against. So I'm going to show you this federal case too. They did send this to me when I told them I was coming in to get records. I called this the law firm here. You guys can see the contact and the other information. I called them this afternoon and I told them I was going to be live streaming and that they were not giving me records that could be important to discovery. Because the bottom line is, Johnathon Silva, for all that he did, he is entitled to due process. And that only works if everybody can see the process like they did in Derek Chauvin's case. But there was never a criminal prosecution of Officer Silva in first or second case. We know we have a corrupt district attorney who has not been prosecuting bad cops. He never has. He has protected them. He is connected to their associations. And this is the lawsuit. So police officers are defended by their unions and the police. And this is the law firm that is defending Officer Silva and that has filed a federal lawsuit on behalf of him. He is in Southern California in Westlake Village, which is a very affluent area. And if you call that number, they actually have lawyers answering the phone on an emergency when there is an officer-involved shooting or excessive force case, because they know this is a PR nightmare for them. They know the public is starting to be concerned about what we haven't been able to see. So we're going to make sure you guys see everything. In this case, the town of Los Gatos and Officer Johnathon Silva is the one that we're going to use as an example to show it to you. It's a small, manageable town. We know the people involved. We know the names of the officers. We have the basic records. And now we're going to start to look at the costs of a Gypsy cop. And when the police chief and the attorney and the elected officials decided to hire Officer Silva, knowing he had beaten somebody, knowing that he had also cost taxpayers through San Jose State University, they were negligent, because they should have known the natural and probable consequence was that Officer Silva would do it again. And he did do it again in 2019. And then the body cams started to come out, the information came out, and he left the department. The news reported he resigned, and he was in fact fired. And now he is suing the federal court. So if you guys have any questions, I'll go back and I'll read the comments. I'm going to do another video about this where I can explain it better. And next week we're going to come back and we're going to demand access to the records that they've been trying to hide from us. So I appreciate there's 102 people watching right now on a Friday afternoon. I know you guys will go on. I'll post this up. We can use it as a talking point later on, because all of our work this week has been about getting these records and access that the police department has been blocking over and over again. And if you notice, it's Friday afternoon. All the police officers are still being paid. There have been no budget cuts to any of these elected officials, and yet there's no one available to give me access to my records, or to all of our records, or to address our questions related to a Gypsy cop known as Officer Silva. So I'm going to try to read your comments right now real quick. If you guys have something you want to ask me, I'm going to the shade so I can read it better. And I appreciate all of you that were on here watching and sticking with me while we do this investigation, because demanding the public records is part of transparency, just like body cams. And I appreciate all of you. I see you, Lion One. Leslie, I saw you a few minutes ago. I appreciate all of you hanging with me. Patty, thank you so much. Patty, you always do a great job, and you mark my videos about what I do right, what I do wrong, what I don't make clear, and I appreciate your feedback every single time you give it. Please keep watching me. Tell me what I do right and tell me what I do wrong, because we're all doing this together. We're going to investigate Gypsy cops and the cost, and we're going to investigate what this actually means when it comes to law enforcement whether it's in a wealthy community or a poor one, and what police officers and their bad conduct really does and costs us. And Patty, again, the time you take to go through my videos and tell me what I have done right and not done right, I listen to every word. I read every comment you guys give me. You help me. You give me information. You give me ideas. And we're putting it all together. I appreciate the First Amendment auditing community. I appreciate all my sources who are actually sometimes mainstream media reporters who are cheering us on, and they just can't do what we are able to do. And so I really, really, really appreciate every single one of you. Leslie, I could not do this without your support all the time, every time I go live, because I'm a little worried. This one, I got threatened by the town attorney. I think his name is Robert Schultz, and he sent me an email last night. And there's nothing that I don't like more. In fact, I might dislike dirty attorneys more than I dislike corrupt cops, because dirty attorneys do their work in secret, and they hide and they stay away from cameras, and they're the ones protecting policing, and they're the ones protecting police chiefs who hire gypsy cops and cost people all this money. And they've never had attention on them before. The bar never does anything about them, and it's just a way of doing business that has gotten to the point where when we're talking about tax dollars, it's unacceptable. So thank you, everybody. I appreciate you coming here on Friday afternoon. I actually wore my arrest clothes in case I was going to get arrested because of the dirty attorney in town of Los Gatos who was threatening me earlier. Looks like I'm going to just go out to dinner instead and work on videos to start explaining gypsy cops to you guys. So thank you, and let's look for that to come in the weeks. And I will go live when I come back during their normal business hours, which will be someday next week, Monday through Thursday. So watch for me to go live, and please, please, please comment, share, and make sure that they know that you're all watching me try to get these records.